And a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on in to Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne, and we are brought to you each and every week by Ameren, Illinois, and Munganess St. Louis Acura. Claibs, you Cardinals right into it. No days off for these Redbirds after a 4-game series against Pittsburgh. They get right back after it tonight, welcoming the very young and exciting Diamondbacks into town.
Yeah, Arizona is, I wouldn't say surprising, but I think that people are expecting them to make the next step. You know, they finished over 500 last year. Obviously, they're in a tough division with the Dodgers and San Diego, but, they have a lot of interesting players. They've got some good young players, as you mentioned. And I'm glad they stuck with their manager, Torey Lovullo, who was a guy that I know that a lot of people wanted his head. But Arizona was patient. They tried to develop their own guys, and they've made some interesting trades along the way also. So this is going to be an interesting series. I don't think we can roll over. I think after the Pittsburgh series, I think we all understand that, when you face teams at this time of the year, they don't know they're going to be bad yet. So you have to be careful with them. And Arizona, as I said, they finished 2 games over 500 last year, and I'm sure that they think they can do better.
Yeah, and then if you're, if you think Jordan Walker's a lock for the Rookie of the Year award in the National League, there's a guy in the Diamondbacks that you might want to pay attention to these next 3 nights. Corbin Carroll is his name. They brought him up towards the end of last year, played in about 30 games for the Diamondbacks last year, but already this season hitting .288, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. But the big number for him is the stolen bases. The guy's fast, already with 6 steals on the season.
Yeah, he's not a big guy, and that would be my concern about can he hold up, especially being a base stealer. But he's certainly gotten off to a good start, and it'll be fun to see what the Cardinals do to try and slow him down.
I've watched a few of their games. I mean, playing on the West Coast with these games ending so fast. Now you get to watch a few more games. So when the Cardinal game ends, in 2 hours and 15 minutes, you switch over and on the MLB package and you watch some other games. I also enjoy their TV crew. It's Steve Berthiaume and Bob Brenly on the TV side for the Diamondbacks. The no-fly zone is what they call the outfield. All very fast outfielders they have out there. So you're hitting the ball in the air. It's probably landed in a glove and not somewhere in the gap.
Yeah, they have good broadcasters on both sides, TV and radio. Greg Schulte, who's from this area, who's retiring this year, is on the radio side, and Tom Candiotti is a color analyst, and they do a really nice job. But yeah, they have fun with the broadcast, and I think their biggest issue now, the ownership wants a new stadium, and Arizona is kind of like, look, if we didn't build a hockey arena, what makes you think we're going to build you one? Build you a baseball stadium. So it's going to be something that, and they're trying to run that thing into the ground. I know a couple of years ago we were out there, they just let it go, man. They were like, look, we want out of here. And so they've got some issues, but they are fun to watch, and I just hope they don't have too much fun in St. Louis.
I was I went to an event there during the Super Bowl. I didn't get into the stadium, but I was in a restaurant that was attached to the stadium, so you could see inside the stadium from the windows of there. And I was talking to a guy who works with the Diamondbacks, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, he goes, if it rains here, he goes, there's areas where it comes through, and he's like, you see the spots that they haven't touched in a few years now, and he's like, they really don't care. I'm planning on going out there, I think in July when they're out there. That's one stadium I haven't crossed off my list yet, but I've heard that, yeah, they're not really putting a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of maintenance into what they have out there now at Chase Field.
Yeah, and I don't know why you would allow a facility to let itself go like that. I'm sure the other side is, well, look, it's okay. It's Major League approved. But to run it down and just have that reputation, I just don't think is healthy for either side. So not my problem. So whatever.
Let's look back at what happened this weekend against Pittsburgh. You split the 4-game series. The Pirates without one of their most exciting players, O'Neal Cruz, and will be without him for about the next 4 months, but held their own against the Cardinals. Shutouts in the first 2 games, extra innings in the next 2 games. So the 2 teams pretty evenly matched over the 4-game set.
Yeah, it was. Pittsburgh has an interesting lineup. Key Brian Hayes, I think, is going to be a real star in this game. Newman is another guy that everybody likes. I mean, when you look up and down their lineup, they've got a good mix of players. And I think that what's really important for them is with Andrew McCutchen and Carlos Santana, two veteran players, showing these guys how to be pros, I think is going to be very helpful to them down the road. So I won't say that they're going to be much better, but I think they will be. I also feel this. I think we got to come to this conclusion. There are going to be some teams that we used to think you can beat up on. I think this league will be a little bit more balanced. I don't think you'll see too many teams that are going to be awful, with the exception. I think Oakland and Washington both have a chance to lose about 110 games. Other than that, everybody else should be reasonably competitive until we get to the trade deadline. If they think they have some assets they can move in order to help themselves for the future, you're going to see some of that. But I don't think we have as many rollovers as we've had in the past.
No, you look. I mean, we're about 16 games, 15 games into the season for most of these teams now, and everybody's still hovering right around. I mean, they could get to 500, be above 500 within a week if you have a good week in the season. So nobody, and Oakland 3-13, Kansas City 4-12 to start the year already. So those two teams, they're not good. But you look at that Nationals lineup, you look at that roster, and there's nothing there that's winning them many games this season either.
No, and so you're going to have a few of those, but not as many.
Yeah, with the Nationals, I think, who is it? Is it Corbin? That's their number one starter who had an ERA of about 7 last year. When you're throwing that out there as your ace,
it's going to be a long season.
It really is. Around the rest of baseball, like we said, we're 3 weeks in to the year now. Who impresses you so far? And let's take the Rays out of the equation, because what they did is just absolutely unbelievable to start the year.
Well, the Cubs have kind of gotten the attention of some people. They took 2 out of 3 in LA against the Dodgers. That would be a team that I said at the beginning, I think the Cubs are finishing second place in the division. Either they're going to finish in second place or they're going to set the world record for strikeouts for one team. The other teams I really haven't seen enough of to say yay or nay. I don't really start paying attention to other teams until really mid-May, because at that point, you can kind of go through them a little bit better. I mean, they're still trying to figure out who can play where. And I think the best example is the Cardinals. I mean, you don't know what your outfield is going to look like on any given day. And at some point, you need to have some stability there. Obviously, nobody can pitch beyond the 5th inning, or very few can. So there's still some fact-finding to take place.
John Mozeliak said this past week, and I believe it was Thursday before the series opened against the Pirates, talked to the media and said that he wanted all of the starting pitchers to get 3 times through the rotation before they kind of assessed where they were at and looked at what the other options were. The other 2 options right now would be Adam Wainwright whenever he's ready to come back. And I guess if you look at what's going on down in Memphis, Matthew Liberatore is another option to come up here. So we've now seen everybody 3 times. We've seen Miles Michaelis now 4 times. So Claibs, you've seen them all. When is it time to maybe give Matthew Liberatore a shot here?
Good question. I guess the other question is, who's he replacing the rotation? But here's the thing about Wainwright, and I'm going to even say about Liberatore as well. We don't need another guy who can pitch only 5 innings and throw 100 pitches. That's why the Cardinals have struggled in the early portion of the season. We don't have anybody who can get out of 5th inning or get through the 6th inning. And we're going to see the wear and tear on the bullpen. So unless you have one of those 2 guys that can give you at least 6 strong and hopefully 7, they can stay where they are. They're not helping the team.
That's not in the organization, though. I mean, Adam Wainwright's not coming. You're not expecting Adam Wainwright to come in and go 8.
I expect him to go beyond 5. It's 5 1/3 and 5 2. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It just puts too much on the bullpen, because, there's some days Ollie may have 4 pitchers available to him, because you have guys that can't go back to back. You have guys that just, they just aren't as good. Then you have Jordan Hicks. So you got some issues where you can get short quick. Because some of these guys just don't know how to pitch through it, or maybe they're not stretched out enough. I think by now you should be stretched out. But it's not just a Cardinal problem. If you look around the league, it's a league problem. And if you don't have some depth in your minor league system, or a different philosophy on how you approach pitching, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble, and some are going to be in trouble a lot sooner than others.
Jordan Hicks, we saw him get lit up again on Saturday. Ali Marmol came out and said that he's staying on the team. They're going to keep him in low leverage situations. First off, why keep him up here? If he has options, if you could send him down, he doesn't. Okay.
No, he's got 5 years in. You can't send him out.
Okay. So what do those low leverage situations look like?
You better hope you have some blowouts.
That's what I'm saying. You have a guy like that on your bullpen. You're sitting here saying there's nights he has 4 guys in the bullpen available, and then there's a guy that you can't trust unless it's a 5-run game one way or the other.
Well, you're gonna have to pitch him one way or the other, okay, or get rid of him. I mean, you don't have there's not many choices. And I'll tell you though, the other day, Saturday, he kept throwing McCutchen sliders, and McCutchen just sat on one. And that, so I think sometimes we have to think about pitch selection. You know, hey, you got here throwing a fastball. You got a couple of good ones. And why you're not throwing more of them, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. That at bat. I mean, does he not trust his fastball anymore?
Look, I don't know. And again, we don't know who's calling the pitches. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that lead to why things unfolded the way they did. So we don't really have the full story on who's doing what. But he kept throwing them. So I talked to McCutchen after the game about it and asked him, I said, were you looking for the heater? He said, no. He said, after a while, I just assumed that he was going to keep throwing me sliders and I was going to sit on one. And he did, and he didn't miss it. And I knew it was a slide because you know what was interesting? He moved up in the box about 4 or 5 inches, all right, because he was trying to catch that slider. And I don't know whether Contreras wasn't paying attention, but I saw from where I was standing, and he didn't miss it.
No, he did not at all. That is, reading back on it, I did not get the chance to watch that live when it was going on, and seeing the details kind of emerge of that at bat afterwards, and seeing that it makes you scratch your head when you get to 3 times in a row, 4 to get to 7. That's unheard of, especially to a veteran like that. I mean, if you're telling me you're throwing Jordan Walker 7 sliders in a row, it's like, okay, yeah, the book's out on him. Throw him those sliders. You're doing it to Andrew McCutchen. That's where you start to have a lot of questions.
Well, and that's where I go back to who called the pitch.
Yeah,
and if somebody else called it other than Hicks, then maybe he wasn't convicted to throw it. Mm-hmm. And if you're not convicted to throw a pitch, man, it normally it hurts you. So again, we don't know. They got to move on and try and figure something out. The low leverage thing is a nice thing to approach, but I don't know how many games you're going to have like that during the course of the week.
The Cardinals again tonight. They start off a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks. Claibs, I put some tickets out on Twitter earlier today, so let's go ahead. Let's give those out right now. I'm looking at the tweet that I threw out there. Let's give them away. Michael Allen. We'll tweet at him. We'll let him know he has won 2 tickets for Tuesday's game. Cardinals Diamondbacks. It's a 6:45 start time for that game. We'll be in touch with Michael and let him know how we'll get him those tickets. And,
weather should be better tomorrow.
Yeah, and as we've said all year long, hey, follow me, follow Claibs on Twitter at Claibs Online at Joe Roderick. Follow us as we have tickets to give away all season long. Because after this series, Claibs, the next time the Cardinals are back in town, it's the Los Angeles Angels in town.
Yeah,
which means Mike Trout and Shohei coming to town.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting series when they roll into town. They're on a road trip now. Man, if you look at some of these schedules, Arizona.
They're in Boston right now. The Angels are in Boston right now, and then 10 days from now they're going to be in St. Louis. So they're all over the place.
Well, how about Arizona has been? They've logged 3,000 miles in a week as far as travel is concerned.
Oof.
Miami, they went 2 other places. Then they went one place, then Miami, and then they come to St. Louis. I mean, the schedule, I guarantee you, when this season is over with, the Players Association is going to complain about this schedule. We already have a game yesterday that was banged, and the player rep for the Giants said that they were told nothing. They sat around for 5 hours before they banged the game. They have to come back to Detroit in July on an off day to play one game.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to go over well. Okay.
No.
Not going to go over well. And I said this to you at the beginning. I said, we're going to stick around a lot longer for rain delays. We're also going to have to try and find windows to make up games. And there are going to be some off days that the players are going to have to give up. And I got news for you. You give up too many of these off days, you're going to have some players griping about it. And it's just a matter of time. So they're going to have to find some sort of ability to tweak the schedule for next year.
Is there a possibility that teams end up getting together and finding neutral sites to kind of have these games at? If it makes sense with the schedule and a road trip where both teams can just go to a empty stadium and play a game there, is that something down the line that's a possibility?
I don't think so. I think even though it's a makeup date, that team still wants to make sure that they have some sort of gate as far as concessions and things of that nature. Now, obviously, it would have a greater impact in a city like St. Louis compared to Detroit, where maybe they're not going to get as many fans, especially if it's on a Thursday on an off day. The only thing you have working for you there is that school is out and maybe you can get some more kids to show up.
Yeah.
But the kids don't drink beer. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't see the neutral site thing working.
Hey, the Cardinals, speaking of the Tigers, they will host the Tigers Friday, May 5th, and that night, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a Cardinals belt bag courtesy of Mercy. Must-have promo item this season. For details and tickets, you can visit cardinals.com/promotions for the May 5th Cardinals belt bag coming your way the next time the Redbirds are in town. We have playoffs to talk about, NBA and NHL, and we will do so when we come back right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
At St. Louis Acura, we have over 130 new Acura models in stock or on the way in March. Like the 2023 Acura MDX, get $1,500 in loyalty cash when you buy, or you can lease the MDX starting at $599 a month. Earn $1,000 loyalty cash on the 2023 Integra, RDX, or TLX, or you can save over $3,500 on our large selection of Acura courtesy vehicles. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Rick Hummel, his new article, up now, ClaibsOnline.com. You can read his thoughts on the outfield that the Cardinals have out there right now and the multiple pairings, variations that we have seen of that outfield over the first 16 games. That's up right now. You click on the articles page or go over to our Facebook page or Claibs' Twitter, and you can find the link to that article right now. That, of course, brought to you each and every week by Fast Eddie's Bonaire, Claibs.
That is correct. Big announcement coming up here fairly soon, first of the month, next month. Some big things going to be happening over Fast Eddie's in Alton, Illinois. But there are big things that happen there every day, because you can go over there and have the Fat Eddie burger, the peel and eat shrimp. The beer is always cold. There's always a lot of entertainment. You can watch your favorite games. It is a real good hangout. I know golf season is just around the corner. Well, really, golf season is here. And a lot of people will go over and play golf, maybe at Spencer T or some of the other fine courses in Illinois. Make one stop at Fast Eddie's and just make a day of it. So if you're thinking about something different, something fun, I would start with Fast Eddie's, because that's the only thing you're going to really need to do.
I got a tournament that I'm putting together out at Spencer T coming up in June, actually. So yeah, it's a nice course they got out there in Alton, Illinois. Claibs, we got playoffs to talk about yesterday, or I guess all last week, really, when you look at the play-in games that were going on in the NBA. But the NBA playoffs are underway, and yesterday was or Saturday and Sunday. Pretty shocking to see all of the upsets in the first round of games. You and I have talked about it a lot this season. The Warriors and what to expect out of them in the playoffs. And let's start there, because they got knocked off game one by the Kings. They cannot win on the road. And it is something that has troubled them all season long. The thought was maybe the experience that the Warriors have over the Kings will help them out. And I know it's just one game. I know you got to win 4 to advance, but I mean, they showed in game one. They just don't have it when they're playing outside of San Francisco.
Well, I think they're going to be better, though, defensively now that they got Wiggins in the lineup, and he'll play a little bit more with each game. He can be that X factor defender that you're looking for. I'm not really worried about the Warriors in that series. I felt they win in 5, saying I'm going to stay with that. I think Sacramento's a good team, still needs a few things to work on, and I think the one thing that really works for them, it didn't hurt the Kings to have Mike Brown, former assistant coach with the Warriors, who knows that team as well as anyone, putting together a game plan. And, Mike has known they were going to face the Warriors for some time. So I think they really orchestrated a pretty interesting game plan. So we'll see what happens for the rest of the series, but I don't see Sacramento winning it.
That was, I mean, that's not really an upset with a 3 seed versus 6 seed, but also yesterday you had 3 huge upsets in the games. The Lakers knock off the Grizzlies 128-112. The Heat dominated from start to finish over the Bucks 130-117. And then the Clippers kind of shocked the Suns a bit, 115-110. The Suns let that game get away from them late, and then towards the end, there were multiple times in the last 3 minutes of that game where I'm sitting there scratching my head wondering what the hell the Suns were thinking.
Yeah, it was a little disoriented. Tyronn Lue made a good point. That team, as we know it, the Suns have not really played a lot of games together. And I think Tyronn Lue made a great point. We showed them some looks that we weren't used to seeing. There'll be some adjustments made. I still think Phoenix is the better team. But, when you get Kawhi Leonard focused and ready to go and healthy, he's as good of a player as there is in the game. And Russell Westbrook has something to prove to the rest of the world. He may not tell you he does, but I think Russell Westbrook is a very tough player to play against at this time of year. He didn't shoot the ball well last night, but he did a whole lot of other things well. And they're not going to have Paul George, so somebody else is going to have to step up. So that series could go a while. It could go 6, maybe 7 games.
The Lakers Grizzlies, were you surprised at all that the Lakers were able to come out on top there?
No, because 2 things. One, they didn't have Steven Adams, so
that
they didn't have a rim
when
protector.
I saw that. Yeah, when I saw Steven Adams was out, that was kind of my big thing. Was I think the Lakers can take this first one.
Well, and the Lakers are playing as good a defense as anybody in the game in the last 15, 20 games. So they kind of got to figure it out. They have a good rotation defensively. They have some guys that come off the bench that can guard and score a little bit. I think Memphis is in big trouble, especially if Morant's going to be hurt. If he's hurt his hand, and I know he said he didn't know. It kind of sounds like they want to play Willis Reed here. We don't know until game time, and he's going to make this triumphant return. But I got news for you. Lakers match up reasonably well. They don't have anybody that be at Memphis that can guard Davis in the middle, and you can put Jaren Jackson Jr. on, but Jackson will end up fouling out. They do a lot of chirping, but man, they're going to have to start playing some basketball, and I just don't know if they have enough.
X-rays came back negative on the hand for John Morant, so it will be a game time decision, as you mentioned, for their next one. And now it's nice, on Saturday you get 4 games, on 4 games Saturday you get 4 games Sunday. And now is where we start to split up the games, and you get 2-3 days off, and you just, now they're all made for TV with these series. You get 2 games tonight, Nets Lakers tonight, and then Warriors Kings game 2 tonight. You've already said that you think Warriors take it in 5, so obviously you got the Warriors in tonight's game. That Nets Sixers matchup. Who do you like in that one? Sixers up in that 1-0.
I like the Sixers, although the Nets play with a lot of heart, man. I give Jacques Vaughn a lot of credit. With all the distractions he had to deal with this year with Durant and Kyrie, and trying to keep some people healthy, for them to even be in the playoffs, I think is a real accomplishment for him. But I don't think they have enough. Philadelphia is a little short on the bench right now. But Embiid, they don't have an answer for Embiid. And he and Harden played a 2-man game as well as anybody in the game right now. So I like what they're doing, and I don't see them having a problem.
Did you enjoy the play-in series?
Yeah, I did.
Those?
Yeah. It's a little confusing at first because, you can lose and still find yourself playing for something. But I think overall, it's kind of like what baseball has done to add another wild card. You create more interest in different markets. And, some people don't think, well, just because they get in doesn't mean they can win anything. And that's true. But if they get in, they can wear another team down and expose another team's weakness with a higher seed, which can make it very challenging for them in the next round. So I like the concept. NBA's got a few tricks up their sleeve. They're talking about having an in-season tournament starting next year. And by the way, I was talking to you recently about how their TV deal is shaping up. And I said it was going to be somewhere between 60 and 65 billion. There's a great piece, and I'll get it to you. They talked about 75 to $100 billion. And what this has come down to is Robert Iger, the guy who runs Disney, and the guy who runs Comcast hate each other. And Comcast has got money because they're NBC, and they want to get back into basketball. They had a pretty good run the last time. So you might see them get in the fray and really drive the price up. And, and you're going to have some other networks that are going to look at and try to get involved as well. So I would just say stay tuned from what things look like with regard to the interest of this league. And they're trying to be more creative to create more interest. So I'm anxious to see how this thing turns out.
One other series, by the way, I wanted to get to. You had said last week that you expected Donovan Mitchell to go off in this series against the Knicks. 38 points in the first game of that. They still lost. Knicks got the win, but yeah, look for Donovan Mitchell to
see. Here's the thing with Mitchell. He can get 38 a night, and they're still going to lose because Thibodeau is one of those coaches that says, all right, you know what? All this guy's going to do is get us in foul trouble. Let's make sure nobody else kills us tonight. And we saw that the other night in Cleveland in their own backyard. So that series I thought was going to be the best one of the opening round. I still think it will be, especially when they go back to New York.
So, NBA playoffs continue tonight. 2 games this evening, both games on TNT. And then I think tomorrow's games too, also
yes,
on TNT as well. So check that out. And that's between that and the NHL playoffs, which we're going to get into here in just a second. Plenty of stuff on your television tonight. Better have multiple screens ready to go for everything to keep up with all the stuff going on. Hey, he is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. We are going to take a quick break, come back, look at the NHL playoffs that start tonight right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. ClaibsOnline.com.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.
Claibs, the Blues are not in the playoffs this year, but still plenty to talk about with the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs kicking off tonight. No fancy play-in games, 8 teams on a side, and they just go at it. Best of 7 for the next 2 months or so. With that most exciting playoff in all of sports.
Oh, no doubt. It's the hardest trophy to win. And I don't expect this one to be easy at all. I think there's so many underlying stories. Tampa trying to get back to the finals again. They face Toronto again. Toronto hasn't won a cup since '67. All right. And every year they have a flat tire somewhere in the first round, and they're going to face Tampa again. So that's going to be interesting. I'll tell you the one I'm looking forward to is Edmonton and the Los Angeles Kings. That might be the best series of any of the opening round series because Edmonton, obviously, with McDavid and they're scoring really well. They're starting to play a little bit better defensively. They could be a handful if they get out of the first round. Dallas is a team that we don't talk enough about and how good they've been all year. So they're going to give somebody a problem also. And then, here's the X factor in Colorado without their captain, who they announced will not be available to them for the playoffs. So they're going to have to try and find a way to get it done. But with that said, they've been without Landeskog most of the season. So the question is for them, can they still find a level to turn it up to? Because everybody else is you're not going to play bad. You're not playing St. Louis Blues anymore. You're playing other bona fide playoff teams. And so therefore you're going to have to bring your A game.
You mentioned you just mentioned about 4 or 5 teams there. You didn't mention the Bruins, who just put
Yeah.
together one of the most impressive regular seasons that we have ever seen in NHL history. And usually when a team runs away with it like that and has a regular season the way they do, usually at some point it catches up to them in the playoffs, and it doesn't quite work out their way. So the Bruins have been chasing history all year. How do they keep that going in the playoffs?
Good point you make here, because we've seen teams go hard to win the President's Cup. In that first round, they're a dud because they put too much into it for the regular season. We saw the Blues happen to them many years ago. I think Jim Montgomery's got things pretty much in tow. It starts with their goaltender. He's been so good all year, and the guys in front of him have made sure he didn't have to make more than one stop a night, one major stop. And, they have balanced scoring. They play a physical game. I think they learned a lot about how the Blues beat them in the finals, and they kind of mirrored themselves after the Blues at that time. They don't want to be the Blues now, but, overall, they're going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. And they're going to be the team to beat as far as the Eastern Conference is concerned. And I think you're going to see a matchup. You have Tampa, you have Tampa, Carolina, and Boston all on one side, and all three of those teams are good enough to get to the finals. But Boston obviously would be the odds-on favorite because of the regular season they had, and they just didn't have a lot of flat tires along the way. I mean, they were very consistent. I don't think they lost 2 games in a row all season.
The last team to win the President's Cup and then win the Stanley Cup. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea.
Chicago Blackhawks, 2013. Wow. 10 years. It's been 10 years since a team has won the President's Cup and then went on to win the Stanley Cup that same season.
Well, I would just say stay tuned. But yeah, it'll be hard to win. I don't care who you are. I'm looking forward to the Edmonton Kings series, and I'll let those guys in the Eastern Conference beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, that's that all starts tonight. 4 games tonight for that one, Claibs. As what do we have on that? You have Islanders, Hurricanes tonight, Panthers, Bruins, Wild Stars, and then if you want to stay up late, Kings and Oilers. At the 9:00 start time for that. So Claibs, that Cardinal game should be done. I was gonna say that Cardinal game will be done by 9:00. The way these games have been going for you.
Yeah, I might miss the first 2 shifts, but after that, I think I'll be able to settle in and watch the rest of the game.
There have been multiple games this year where I'm sitting there and I'm kind of looking and I'm like, we're in the 5th inning. Like this game just started a half an hour ago.
Joe, they had one yesterday, went 157.
Which one was that?
Gosh, I forgot. A friend of mine who's an umpire had the game.
Well, I know the one there was one in Colorado, the Cardinals Colorado game. That was like 2:15.
Mm-hmm.
A game in Denver, in Colorado. Like Chip Carey was sitting on the TV broadcast. Like he's saying he's never seen anything like this before.
None of us have. I mean, like I said last week, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to professional sports. This pitch clock. It's had such an impact on the game. And I gotta be honest with you, I think the games have been crisper. I think the games have been better played. I think the pitching is trying to figure it out. But overall, I think the games have been much more entertaining to take in, even if it's a 1-0 or 2-0 game.
Did you see where Cody Bellinger got called for a strike the other day?
So here's the deal. We were on a conference call a couple of weeks ago about extenuating circumstances. But if you let the league know, hey, we've got this situation going on, can we get wiggle room? And the league can approve it. Now, maybe they requested it and they said, it's just an introduction. But there are provisions in place. If the league is aware of it, you can request, something to cut you some slack on a particular pitch.
And it just feels like umpire discretion that.
No, you know what? Call it in the book, man. This is where we get off base.
So you're saying the Yachty retire at the right time, then to not go out there and stand out there in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you know what? This thing is working because they're calling what's in the rule book. And this is where sports gets off track when we start to vary and it becomes too arbitrary. That's when we get ourselves in trouble, because once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in.
So along with this, one of the things that's been happening around baseball this season with the time of games has been beer sales. as everyone knows, in St. Louis and everywhere else, it was at the end of the 7th inning, beer sales would stop. Games have been going by so fast that now 7 teams have extended their beer sales into the 8th inning. I believe Houston, there's some places in Houston you can get it all the way till the end of the game. I think I read the Cardinals have come out and said as of right now they have no intention of extending any of those sales. But I think after a few homestands come out and teams start to look at that bottom line and see where the concession sales are, it might start changing for even more teams.
Well, yes and no. I think your concessions are only as good as the people who are serving you. And you have to make sure that you have things that you can move on a pretty quick pace, whether it's a cheeseburger or French fries or a beer. You have to have a staff that can get it up and get out. That's probably more important than anything else. I mean, think about it. Busch Stadium is, you don't use cash anymore. I mean, you use your credit card. So that's one thing. You don't have to count out change or anything like that. You can make it more efficient. But I think it's about how quickly you can turn things around from when you get the order. And, all of these facilities are looking for people to come in and work. That's been the bigger challenge. So a lot of times you can be short-staffed. But I'm sure by the time we get to July, we'll see some things change. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, so just stay tuned for any news coming out of Busch Stadium as far as that goes. I mean, gates open early enough and all that. Like if you're sitting there still trying to buy beers in the 7th inning and you're upset,
you got a bigger problem.
I was going to say there's other issues that probably need to be addressed in your life if that's the case. Claibs first of 3 tonight in St. Louis against the Diamondbacks. It is Merrill Kelly, who was on Team USA, pitched in the championship game against Japan, actually was the starting pitcher for that back in the World Baseball Classic, taking on Jack Flaherty tonight. What do you expect to see out of Jack?
Pick up where he left off in Colorado. I thought he was pretty good in Colorado, and that was the first time he'd ever pitched there. And we've seen some guys crash and burn there quickly. If he can stay on plane, man, this will be a good series for him to start off with against Arizona. But hopefully he's turned the corner.
What do you have planned for the pregame this week?
Visiting with the people from Wicked that are in town.
Okay.
I think that's tomorrow. We have our affiliates function tomorrow. We have all of our affiliates from the Cardinal Radio Network. I think it's like 149 affiliates that will come in and we'll kind of hobnob with them. We have a getaway day on Wednesday. We have reservations for Salty's on Wednesday night, off day on Thursday. And then I'm going to go to Pike Street Fish Market and make a couple seafood purchases and get around Seattle. That's not a bad town.
Never been up there.
It's just hard to get to, man.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 hours from everywhere.
Yeah. What? How many times have you seen Wicked? Have you seen it at all?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it a couple of times.
All
I
right.
don't need to see it again, but it's all right.
You know what? It's won a lot of awards over the years,
Yeah.
and that's why it's touring. And I can't wait to hear your work with them coming up later this week. Also, you and Kamish getting back at it this week too.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and then we got 2-man game with the NBA playoffs going on. Rammer and I each and every day with Daily Cards Live. So a lot going on.
You know who you guys have to get? I'll tell you who else is a real lineup guy. Chip Carey.
Okay.
You guys might want to visit with him one day about that.
That is, I still haven't met him yet since he's been here. So that's something we need to change here soon.
I know Rammer was talking about coming down to the park this week. So why don't you get with him and maybe you guys can come down together. I'll make the introduction.
I'll be there Tuesday. I'll be there Tuesday and Wednesday actually. So
he sent me a lineup last night. As a matter of fact, I was trying to pull it up. Hold on.
Who did, Rammer or Chip?
No, Chip.
Okay.
So here's his lineup: Nootbaar, Goldie, Donovan, Arenado, Gorman, Contreras, Carlson/Burleson, Walker, and Edmund. So you got left, right, switch, right, switch.
I've been Rammer and I were talking about this on Friday, that with the struggles of Contreras and the hot start for Gorman, I don't know why they haven't flipped the two of them yet, because you don't even have to hurt Contreras' feelings by moving him down the lineup. You could just say, hey, we're trying to split up the left and right here, and we're just trying to put a lefty right after Goldie and Arenado.
Yeah.
Like that seems to make sense, and they haven't done it yet.
Well, maybe today's the day. Who knows?
We will. We'll see. Claibs, we'll talk to you soon, and listen to you on the broadcast on KMOX this week. 6:45 start time for tonight's game. Pre-game starts much earlier than that. He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, right here on claibsonline.com.
From our roots in St. Louis, Royal Banks of Missouri is branching out to continue serving you with our locations in St. Charles, Jerseyville, Granite City, and now in Hannibal, Center, and New London. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank in your community.